You want to know who nearly saved 100 lives that day? Let me take you back to the kind of airport morning that hums with ego and ambition. Picture it. Champagne glasses, high-ranking pilots strutting past like peacocks. Everybody on edge about the inaugural flight to Tokyo in this super luxury jet that's supposed to change the industry. And there, crawling beneath the plane in a shirt that's seen too many washes, is Megan Clark. Voltage meter in hand, backpack thrown down like she's ready to walk out at any minute, and yeah, folks were already cracking jokes. Who let the janitor near the aircraft? One of the senior pilots muttered, just loud enough for the others to laugh. Nobody could see past the untucked shirt and scuffed shoes. People just saw what they wanted to see. But Megan wasn't there for the attention, not for the applause, not even for a paycheck. She was on a mission, you know what I mean? She was the only one, in a terminal packed with experts and VIPs, who'd even noticed something was wrong. While the cameras rolled and the PR team huddled over checklists, Megan's hands traced the undercarriage, dialed in on readings no one else cared to check. A supervisor stomped over, clipboard in hand, chest out like he owned the place, barking at her to get lost, asking if anyone could sign her cleaning attendance sheet, laughter echoing out across the tarmac, like a punchline that's worn thin. But Megan? She didn't say a word. She just finished her inspection, eyes cool as ice, not even glancing at the polished shoes standing a foot from her head. Inside, the airport was buzzing, that kind of self-congratulating, high-stakes energy where you can almost taste the envy and ambition in the air. Megan slipped past it all, invisible to everyone but herself, weaving through staff and travelers. She found a quiet spot by an empty kiosk, pulled out a beat-up laptop, plugged into an authorized technician's only port, and started reading data streams that would have looked like ancient Greek to anyone else. But she caught something, a blip in the code, just enough to put her on edge. You ever have that feeling you see a problem, nobody else cares, and the clock's ticking down? That's Megan's every day. Even when a ground engineer came over, snapping at her about restricted access, she just nodded, unplugged, and faded away before he could finish. No one followed up. Nobody checked her credentials, as if her presence was less threatening than, say, the risk of the actual jet exploding over the Pacific. So here's the twist, right? While journalists lined up behind velvet ropes, waiting for a quote from the star pilot or a flight attendant who'd once poured drinks for royalty, Megan ducked into a dusty corner and unscrewed a junction box. Her hands were calm, but fast, working cables labeled with numbers that meant nothing to anyone else. Some tall engineer in a sharp uniform nearly tripped over her, called her out for getting in the way of the real work, you know the type. She pointed out that his precious backup alert system was compromised, but he brushed her off, barely listening before striding away. All around her, the airport kicked into launch mode. Announcements blared about the historic flight. Passengers gathered at the gate. Camera flashes lit up the lead pilot's silver hair. Megan blended into the background, just another nobody with a tool bag, until she spotted an anomaly in the flight control system. She tried to warn someone, security, the gate staff, even the flight crew. Nobody would listen. One flight attendant even told her, loud enough for the cameras, to go mop up the break room when she was done pretending to be a technician. Every door slammed in her face. So what did she do? She didn't quit. She found a side corridor, slipped into an empty maintenance room, and plugged her laptop into a diagnostic port. There it was, clear as day, malicious code running, a backdoor in the autopilot system that could hijack the plane's navigation in midair. The IT supervisor nearly had a heart attack when he saw her screen. Within moments, alarms started ringing in the control room. Frantic calls went out to the cockpit, and the party at the gate turned dead silent. The pilots scrambled for manual override. Flight attendants clung to the intercom, and the entire flight veered away from disaster with seconds to spare. Imagine that, a multi-million-dollar flight saved by the person nobody wanted around. When the plane touched down less than an hour after takeoff, emergency vehicles swarmed. Media headlines spun from triumph to panic, and Megan stood quietly at the edge of it all, watching the aftermath unfold. The real kicker? As the truth emerged, it turned out Megan wasn't a janitor, wasn't some temp technician. She was a covert consultant from the Department of Defense, previously head of aerospace safety at NASA, brought in to test both the system and the people running it. Her messy inspection wasn't an accident. She was there to see who'd listen, who'd notice, who'd act. And guess what almost nobody did? In that moment of revelation, when the airport official read her credentials to the stunned crowd, it was like the whole place froze. The flight attendants who'd whispered about first class being doomed hung their heads in shame. The senior pilot who'd laughed at her looked ready to melt through the floor. VIPs who'd sipped champagne suddenly realized how close they'd come to dying, and all those sound bites about innovation and luxury just crumbled to dust. But Megan didn't gloat. She let the apologies come, nodding in silence, never once raising her voice. The fallout swept through the industry. Airlines rewrote their training manuals, retrained staff, and posted new signs reminding everyone that expertise has nothing to do with uniform or shoes. The incident became a global case study. Megan? She turned down the cushy director job, set up a fellowship to train underrepresented engineers, and faded back into the background just like she'd always done. Somewhere in the terminal, they put up a plaque. You don't know who's saving your life. Honor every uniform. And travelers, well, they started to notice the quiet ones a little more. That's the twist nobody saw coming. The woman they once laughed at for looking like a janitor, she saved them all. So here's the real question, and I'm tossing it out to you. What do you do when the only voice that can save you is the one you're least likely to hear? Is it enough to apologize after the fact, or does real justice mean changing everything, top to bottom, so nobody gets overlooked again? You tell me. Drop your thoughts below. Who gets to define expertise, and what does real respect look like when the stakes are sky high?